For 10 straight days last September, hundreds of people showed up in front of the White House to protest the Keystone XL pipeline. They wanted to be heard and get arrested. Mike Tidwell is director of the Chesapeake Climate Action Network.
On August 20th, I was part of the 1,253 people all over the country and from Canada who were arrested here, and I'm proud of it.
On Sunday, Tidwell will be back at the White House as part of a new protest, expected to draw thousands of people, all of them demanding President Obama stop the pipeline.
You cannot begin to solve global warming if you build this pipeline. So on November 6th, we see this as a pivotal, transformative event. 10,000 people. It will be the biggest event in terms of participation probably ever in America focused on climate change.
In Calgary, Alberta, the company behind the Keystone XL project, TransCanada Pipelines, says the protests have come as a surprise. Russ Girling is the company's president and CEO.
We never expected to be the lightning rod for the development of the Canadian oil sands. At the end of the day, we build a conduit from A to B.
Girling says Keystone XL's approval would immediately generate 20,000 new jobs for the idling American economy, plus thousands more in spin-offs. David Molino of the Laborers International Union of North America calls it a no-brainer.
We've had a number of members, a lot of members, frankly, who are in foreclosure and not able to make the basic needs payments that they have in their lives. So this pipeline is not just a pipeline, it's a lifeline for many of our members.
The controversial $7 billion Keystone XL project would pipe oil from Canada's oil sands in the province of Alberta across 6 states to refineries along the Gulf Coast. To push the pipeline, the industry has taken out ads like this one.
Now, just who is America's #1 supplier of imported oil? Canada, by far. And the better news? Our neighbor could supply lots more.
For environmentalists, it's not just about the pipeline. They don't like the kind of oil Canada is selling.
Yes, it will create jobs. Welders, pipe fitters will be employed to build this thing. But in the process, it's going to further addict America to the dirtiest petroleum fuel known to man, tar sands.
Canada's oil sands, or tar sands, depending on your point of view, are booming. There are 170 billion barrels of oil here. In fact, only Venezuela and Saudi Arabia have more than Canada. Oil here, though, does not flow. It's mixed up with sand and is hard to extract. Some of it is mined in massive open pits, using some of the biggest earth-moving equipment in the world. But most of Canada's oil sands are too deep to dig up, so they use steam to get it out.
There are 2 different stories in the oil sands.
Drew Ziegel-Gansberger is with the Canadian oil firm Cenovus.
Those are the Phase C treaters, these are Phase D treaters. Phase E starts here, and then Phase FGH is back where those trucks are in the back. And eventually that'll take us over 250,000 barrels a day.
This rapidly expanding oil sands operation in Alberta, called Christina Lake, is a visual victory for the industry. It looks nothing like the open pit mines. Here, pipes replace excavators and trucks. Think of them as straws in the ground. Steam is used to cook the ground, separating the oil from the sand. Then it's pumped to the surface. To get a sample, you just turn a tap. But steaming oil out of the ground creates the greatest quantity of earth-warming greenhouse gas. Critics call it the dirtiest oil on the planet. Cenovus says it's different.
Obviously the visual pictures that most people associate with the oil sands can be seen as dirty oil, but for Cenovus, specifically at Christina Lake, with our steam-to-oil ratios as low as they are, we've got data, and what we're able to prove is that we're actually cleaner than most all other supplies in North America.
American cars and trucks already are burning gas made from Canada's oil sands. TransCanada just wants to send more.
We have gone through a 3-year thorough review of this pipeline project. And the conclusion of that was that the pipeline would have limited impact on the environment.
Still, they are skeptics, especially in Nebraska, where it's feared an oil leak would pollute crucial underground water supplies. They want the pipeline rerouted, not a rerun of the BP oil disaster or last summer's oil spill in the Yellowstone River. So far, TransCanada is refusing.
8 different routes were reviewed. All of them deemed to be or determined to be inferior to the route that we've picked. We picked the one that has the shortest distance, which means the least environmental impact, least number of landowners, the least number of river crossings.
At the Canadian Embassy in Washington, Ambassador Gary Doer says getting oil from Canada simply makes sense.
Oil from a reliable neighbor like Canada, a democracy like Canada, would displace Venezuelan oil and would make the United States less reliant on unstable oil from the Middle East.
The Obama administration must decide whether the pipeline is in the national interest, and with environmental groups and unions split on the issue, it's clear the administration will anger supporters no matter what it decides. A decision is expected in December. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.